I never imagined I'd appreciate the dull hum of daytime television, but as I lay on my old couch, flipping through channels without thinking, I found myself enjoying these last moments of normal life. The local news droned on about a heat wave in Mississippi, but I barely paid attention. My mind was elsewhere, focused on the night ahead. My name is Faith, and at 37, I thought I had seen everything in my nursing career: busy city hospitals, chaotic emergencies, and everything in between. But life has a way of surprising you, and my surprise came in the form of a job listing that seemed almost too good to be true. A night nurse position at a small rural clinic in Mississippi, offering $60 an hour. It was the change I needed, a way to escape the exhaustion that had been creeping up on me. I glanced at the clock. 6:30 p.m. time to get ready. With a deep breath, I pushed myself off the couch, my movements slow in the summer heat. As I made my way to the bathroom, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Dark circles under my eyes, messy hair. I looked as tired as I felt. "Come on, Faith," I muttered to myself. "New job, new you." I went through my usual routine: shower, scrubs, coffee, but a strange sense of unease settled in my stomach. I brushed it off as first day nerves and tried to ignore it. At 7:45 p.m., I grabbed my keys and stepped outside. The humid air hit me like a wall. The drive to the clinic was quiet, the roads barely lit as I pulled up to a small, worn-down building. Something about it felt off. It looked normal enough: one story, peeling white paint, a flickering, open sign in the window. But an unshakable feeling of unease crept over me. I shook my head, trying to push the thought away. "It's just a clinic," I told myself. As I walked in, the bell above the door jingled. The reception area was empty except for an elderly woman sitting behind the desk. She looked up as I entered, her cloudy eyes locking onto me with an intensity that made me uncomfortable. "Faith Williams," she said. I nodded, forcing a smile. "That's me. I'm here for the night shift." She didn't smile back. Instead, she reached under the desk and pulled out a small box, sliding it toward me. "Everything you need is in here," she said. "Follow the rules, and you'll be fine." Before I could ask what she meant, she stood up and shuffled toward the exit. As she passed me, she muttered, "Good luck," and left, leaving me alone in the unsettling silence of the clinic. Confused, I opened the box. Inside was a strange metal amulet with intricate carvings and a folded piece of paper. I unfolded it, frowning as I read. 1. Wear the amulet at all times. Never take it off. 2. Do not leave the clinic before 6 a.m. 3. Check the supply closet at 1 a.m., 3 a.m., and 5 a.m. Restock if needed. 4. If you hear knocking from exam room 3, do not open the door. 5. The phone will ring at 2:15 a.m. Answer it, but do not speak. 6. If the lights flicker, recite the nurse's pledge. 7. Do not look out of any windows between 12 a.m. and 4 a.m. 8. If you see a child in the waiting room, ignore them. They are not real. 9. At 4:30 a.m., leave a cup of water in exam room 2. 10. Do not enter exam room 2 after leaving the water. 11. If you hear your name being called, do not respond. 12. Coffee in the break room is safe to drink until 3 a.m. After that, avoid it. 13. When your shift ends, place the amulet back in the box and leave it on the reception desk. I read the list twice, then a third time. Surely, this was some kind of joke, a prank for new employees. But as I stood there, the cold metal of the amulet pressing against my palm, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was serious. With a deep breath, I slipped the amulet over my head. It felt heavy against my chest. I glanced at the clock. 8:55 p.m. My shift was about to begin. The first few hours were uneventful. I spent time getting familiar with the clinic, checking supplies, and reviewing patient files. Everything seemed normal, but the uneasy feeling never left me. By 11:30 p.m., I was in the break room, sipping coffee, trying to shake the drowsiness creeping in. The rules flashed through my mind. The coffee is safe until 3 a.m. I checked my watch. Still safe. As midnight approached, the atmosphere in the clinic seemed to shift. The air felt heavier. The shadows stretched longer. Every creak and groan of the building made me glance over my shoulder. At exactly 12 a.m., I held my breath, expecting something, anything, to happen. But there was nothing, just the ticking clock and the faint hum of fluorescent lights. I forced myself to focus on my work, organizing files, checking supplies. But I kept thinking about the rules, especially one in particular. Do not look out of any windows between 12 a.m. and 4 a.m. My eyes kept drifting toward the windows. Curiosity battled with fear. What would I see if I looked? Did I even want to know? At 1 a.m., I made my way to the supply closet as instructed. My hand trembled slightly as I reached for the doorknob. Taking a deep breath, I opened the door. It was just a closet. Shelves stacked with medical supplies. Nothing unusual. I let out a quiet laugh, feeling silly for being so nervous. I quickly restocked what was needed and closed the door, a little more at ease. But that relief didn't last long. As I turned away from the closet, I heard it, soft, steady knocking coming from exam room 3. My blood ran cold. If you hear knocking from exam room 3, do not open the door. The knocking grew louder, more urgent. I stood frozen, my heart pounding. Every instinct told me to check, to help whoever was inside. But the weight of the amulet against my chest reminded me of the rules. With great effort, I turned away from the door and walked back to the reception area, the sound of knocking still ringing in my ears. At exactly 2:15 a.m., the phone rang. The sharp sound cut through the silence like a knife, making me jump even though I was expecting it. With a trembling hand, I picked up the receiver and held it to my ear. Silence. Then, a sound that sent chills down my spine. Slow, raspy breathing. Something not quite human. I wanted to slam the phone down, to run, and never return. But I remembered the rule: answer, but do not speak. So I stood there, listening to that terrifying breathing for what felt like an eternity. When the line finally went dead, I nearly collapsed in relief. The rest of the night passed in fear and tension. The lights flickered at 3:30 a.m., and I whispered the nurse's pledge in a shaky voice, my eyes darting around the dimly lit clinic. At 4:30 a.m., I placed a cup of water in exam room 2, my heart pounding as I quickly backed away. As 6 a.m. approached, I felt a mix of relief and dread. I had survived the night, followed the rules, but what now? At 5:55 a.m., the elderly receptionist shuffled in, looking exactly as she had the night before. Without a word, I placed the amulet back in the box and left it on the desk. She nodded, her cloudy eyes filled with understanding. I practically ran to my car, grateful for the morning sun after the long, terrifying night. As I drove home, I tried to make sense of everything. In the daylight, it felt like a bad dream. But when I pulled into my driveway, my heart nearly stopped. My watch, which had matched the clinic's clocks all night, now read 7:45 p.m., the exact time I had left for work the night before. I stepped inside my house, and everything was exactly as I had left it. The TV was still playing the same news report about the heat wave. A chilling realization hit me. I hadn't left the night shift. I was starting it again. The next few days, if I could call them that, passed in a nightmarish cycle. Every evening at 6:30 p.m., I woke up on my couch, got ready, and arrived at the clinic at 8:55 p.m. The same receptionist, the same box with the amulet and rules. And each night, something new and horrifying happened. On the third loop, I saw the child mentioned in the rules. A little girl, around 7 or 8, sat in the waiting room at 3 a.m. Her eyes were pitch black, her smile too wide, filled with too many teeth. She called out to me in a voice that sounded like breaking glass, but I forced myself to ignore her. On the fifth loop, I made the mistake of looking out the window at 2 a.m. What I saw still haunts me. The clinic was no longer in rural Mississippi. It floated in a void, surrounded by twisted, impossible shapes that made my eyes hurt to look at. I shut the blinds quickly, my mind struggling to comprehend what I had seen. By the seventh loop, things took a terrifying turn. Everything seemed normal until 4 a.m. That's when I heard it. My name, whispered in a voice exactly like mine. Faith, it called. Help me. The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. My grip tightened on the desk as I whispered to myself, do not respond if you hear your name being called. Faith, please, the voice begged. I'm you from another loop. I found a way out, but I need your help. It was tempting, so tempting, to believe there was a way out. But the rules had kept me safe so far, and I clung to them like a lifeline. As dawn approached, I placed the amulet back in the box with shaking hands. The receptionist nodded as usual, but this time I thought I saw something else in her eyes: pity. I drove home in a daze. When I pulled into my driveway, I glanced at my watch out of habit. 7:45 p.m. again. But this time, something was different. A note was taped to my front door, written in handwriting identical to mine. Faith, I know you're scared. I know you think following the rules is the only way to survive. But the rules are part of the trap. The amulet, the time loop, all of it. They're using us for an experiment. There's a way out, but we have to break the rules to find it. When you get to the clinic tonight, don't put on the amulet. That's the first step. Be brave. I stared at the note, my heart pounding. Could this be real? Was there truly a way out? Or was this just another trick? Another test? As I sank onto my couch, the TV still droning on about the heat wave, I realized I was at a crossroads. Do I follow the rules that have kept me alive, or take a risk and try to escape? The clock ticked towards 7:45 p.m. I had to decide. As I got into my car, the note tucked safely in my pocket, a new realization hit me. The real horror wasn't just the supernatural events at the clinic. It was the thought of being trapped in this loop forever, never moving forward, never changing. Tonight would be different. Tonight, I would break the rules. When I pulled up to the clinic, my heart pounded in my throat. Everything looked the same, the peeling paint, the flickering, open sign, but it felt different. The air crackled with something new, a mix of possibility and danger. I stepped inside, the bell jingling above me. The elderly receptionist looked up, fixing her unsettling gaze on me. Faith Williams, she croaked, just like every other night. I forced a smile. That's me, here for the night shift. She reached under the desk and slid the small box toward me. Everything you need is in here. Follow the rules, and you'll be fine. My hand hovered over the box. Every instinct screamed at me to take the amulet to follow the rules. But the note in my pocket burned against my skin, reminding me of the choice I had made. I took a deep breath and pushed the box back toward her. I don't think I'll need that tonight. Her eyes widened for a brief moment. Was that fear? It was gone so quickly, I couldn't be sure. You must wear the amulet, she insisted, her voice sharper than before. It's for your own protection. I stood firm. No, thank you, I'll be fine without it. For a moment, I thought she might argue. But then, she simply nodded, her face unreadable. Very well. Good luck. As she shuffled toward the exit, a chill ran down my spine. I had just set something in motion, something big. The clinic felt different without the amulet. The shadows seemed darker, the silence heavier. But there was also a new clarity, as if a veil had been lifted from my eyes. As I walked through the clinic, every creak and groan of the old building felt sharper, more real. When I reached the supply closet, I hesitated. It was almost 1 a.m., the time for the first scheduled AC check according to the rules. But I wasn't following the rules anymore, was I? Taking a deep breath, I walked past the closet. Nothing happened. No alarms, no supernatural punishment. Just the quiet hum of the clinic as the night dragged on. I found myself preparing for the horrors I had faced in previous loops. The knocking from exam room 3, the phone call at 2:15 a.m., the child in the waiting room. But none of it happened. The clinic remained silent, almost unnaturally so. That in itself was unsettling. The absence of the terrors I had come to expect made me jump at even the smallest sounds, my nerves frayed from constant anticipation. Around 3 a.m., I was pacing in the break room when I noticed something strange. The air shimmered, like heat waves rising from hot asphalt. I squinted, trying to understand what I was seeing. The shimmer grew stronger, forming a shape, a doorway, and through it, I saw myself. But it wasn't exactly me. This version looked older, worn out. She wore the same scrubs, but they were torn and dirty. Her eyes held a haunted look that sent chills down my spine. "Faith," she said, her voice echoing unnaturally. "You did it. You broke the first rule." I stumbled back, my heart racing. "Who? What are you?" "I'm you," she said with a sad smile. "From a future loop, or maybe a past one. Time doesn't work the same way here." I shook my head, struggling to grasp what was happening. "This is impossible. You can't be real," she sighed. "I'm as real as you are, and I'm here to help you break the loop. But we don't have much time. They'll realize soon that you're not wearing the amulet." A chill ran through me. "Who are they?" The other Faith glanced over her shoulder, as if expecting someone to appear. "The ones running this experiment. They're studying time loops, using people like us as lab rats. The rules, the amulet, it's all part of their control." My mind reeled. Why? What's the purpose of all this? "Power," she said simply. "Imagine controlling time itself, repeating events, changing outcomes. It's the ultimate form of control." I thought back to all the loops I had endured, the horrors I had faced. "So, none of it was real?" She shook her head. "Oh, it was real, but it wasn't supernatural. Every event, the knocking, the child in the waiting room, was a carefully planned scenario to test us, to see how we react, to see if we obey the rules." I felt sick. I had been nothing more than an experiment in some twisted game. "How do we stop it?" I asked, my fear replaced by determination. The other Faith smiled, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "We need to overload their system and create a paradox they can't control. There's a hidden room in the clinic where they monitor everything. We have to destroy their equipment and force two versions of ourselves to come into direct contact." The shimmering doorway started to fade. As she disappeared, her final words echoed in my mind. "The rules are theirs. Make your own." With a newfound sense of purpose, I explored the clinic, venturing into areas I had never dared to enter before. Hidden behind what I had always thought was a supply closet, I found a long corridor. The deeper I went, the more the clinic's facade crumbled. White walls gave way to metal panels covered in blinking lights. The air buzzed with the sound of machinery. I reached a door marked "Observation." This had to be it. Taking a deep breath, I pushed it open. Inside, The room looked like something out of a sci-fi movie. Walls lined with computers displayed live feeds of different parts of the clinic, including areas I had never seen before. In the center of the room was a large circular device, pulsing with an eerie blue light. I barely had time to take it all in before I heard footsteps approaching. Panic surged through me. I looked around for a place to hide, but there was none. The door opened, and I found myself face to face with another version of me. This one wore the amulet, her eyes wide with shock. "What? How?" she stammered. In that moment, I understood what the other faith had meant about creating a paradox. Without thinking, I reached out and grabbed her hand. The effect was immediate. The room trembled. The blue light pulsed wildly. Alarms blared. Voices shouted in panic from beyond the walls. The other faith and I stood frozen, unable to let go, as reality itself unraveled around us. The walls blurred and shifted. Images flickered like a distorted slideshow. Other versions of me, trapped in their own loops. The clinic transformed before my eyes, shifting from an old-time doctor's office to a futuristic medical facility. Time was breaking apart. Just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, everything went white. I woke up on my couch. The TV droned on about a heat wave. For a moment, I thought I was back at the start of the loop. But then I saw the date on the news ticker. August 15th, 2023. 2 months after my first night shift at the clinic. My phone rang. Hands shaking, I answered. "Faith, are you there?" My sister's voice was thick with worry. "We've been trying to reach you for weeks. Where have you been?" Tears streamed down my face as I realized it was over. The loop was broken. I was free, but the memories remained. The knowledge of what had been done, of the experiments that had twisted time itself, weighed on me. As I hung up, promising my sister I'd explain soon, I caught my reflection in the mirror. For a split second, I thought I saw the amulet around my neck, its strange engravings glowing faintly. I blinked, and it was gone, but the feeling lingered. A sense that time was far more fragile than I had ever imagined. That somewhere, someone, the experiments might still be continuing. I touched my neck where the amulet had been, feeling its phantom weight. "The rules are theirs," I whispered to my reflection. "Make your own." As I turned away, I noticed a folded piece of paper on my coffee table. It hadn't been there before. With trembling fingers, I opened it. In my own handwriting, 2 words were scrawled across the page. "Stay vigilant." I knew then that this chapter was over, but my journey had only begun. The battle against those who sought to control time itself was far from finished, and this time I would be ready. The TV continued playing, the news anchor's voice blending into the background as I sank into the couch, my mind struggling to process everything. 2 months. I had lost 2 months of my life to that endless time loop. Or had I gained something far greater? A lifetime of experiences, nights repeating over and over. I closed my eyes, and the memories came rushing back. the knocking from exam room 3, the child with too many teeth, the unnatural landscape outside the window. Every moment, every fear, all of it had been orchestrated, designed to test me. But why me? Why that small, ordinary clinic in rural Mississippi? As if in response to my unspoken questions, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. My heart pounded as I opened it. The war isn't over. Others are still trapped. You know what to do. A wave of emotions crashed over me. Fear, of course, at the thought of being pulled back into that nightmare. But also something stronger. Determination. A responsibility I couldn't ignore. I thought of the other versions of myself I had seen in that paradox moment. How many were still stuck, blindly following the rules, unaware of the truth behind their prison? Taking a deep breath, I stood up. First, I needed to reconnect with my family, to remind myself that this reality was real, that I had made it back. But after that, my eyes fell on the note on my coffee table. Stay vigilant. My own handwriting. A warning, yes, but also a mission. As I picked up my phone to call my sister, my gaze flickered to my reflection in the dark TV screen. For a moment, I didn't just see myself. I saw echoes of all the other versions of me. The ones who had suffered, the ones who had broken free, the ones still fighting. I straightened my shoulders. The loop was shattered. The rules were broken. But the game wasn't over. It had just changed. And this time, I would be the one making the rules.